Cities in North America tend to have a lot of rules about housing that enforce a very suburban vision of what a neighborhood should look like and be. This includes zoning laws that only allow single-family detached houses to be built in a lot of areas, plus other miscellaneous rules like parking requirements and large minimum lot sizes. These rules might seem like common sense if they're all you've ever known, but many of them are actually pretty absurd when you step back and consider how often things work fine in other cities without these rules.
One example of such a rule is Toronto's restrictive approach to residential front doors. In 1999, Canada's largest city legalized homeowners having secondary suites in their houses, which in most cases means a basement apartment. However, what they didn't do is allow these units to have their own front entrance, unless it could be hidden away under a porch. In most cases, secondary suites were expected to have some other access, like from the side.
This topic of front entrances came up in 2019 when the Planning and Housing Committee recommended a change to the bylaw to allow front entrances on secondary suites by default. City Council debated this but ultimately upheld the restriction on the grounds that more front doors are a threat to the stability, character, and feel of Toronto's neighborhoods.
Meanwhile, in Montreal, it's extremely common for a building to have multiple front entrances. They don't even stop at 2. Lots of residential buildings here have 3, 4, 6, and even 8 front entrances. You can find multiple front doors on more ornate residences built for the wealthy, on more plain housing built for the working class, and everything in between. They're especially common in pre-war neighborhoods, but you can find post-war suburban variants too.
If having even 2 front doors on a residence really did such harm to the feel of a neighborhood, then you might expect Montreal's neighborhoods to have a severe problem with character, but that's not really the case. These neighborhoods are among the most charming and interesting parts of the city. There are things about Montreal that visitors often complain about, like the bad roads or cold winters, but a lack of neighborhood character just isn't one of those things.
These stores also serve a practical purpose that residents appreciate. Along with the city's iconic external staircases, multiple front doors allow small-scale multi-unit buildings where each household has their own easy and independent access to the street, in addition to usually having similar access in the back to a court, alley, or backyard. The external staircases can be a little dangerous in the winter, but in general, this building style creates a very livable kind of density that we talk about in more detail in another video that we have on Montreal housing.
But not that far away in Toronto, City Council considers front-facing doors a big enough threat to neighborhoods that they legally restrict having even just 2 of them. From a Montreal perspective, that's kind of absurd. This is such a minor feature to restrict by law. A second front door is not a major aesthetic or character change, and it doesn't really stand out any more than normal variations in building material, like stone versus brick. It changes the look of a house less than a garage does. The policy just comes across as being based on the idea that renting is shameful and tenants should be hidden away, regardless of whether a front-facing door is more convenient for the renter or more practical given the construction of the house.
Some people might defend the Toronto policy by saying that multiple front doors work fine in Montreal, but they just don't fit into the Toronto neighborhood aesthetic. Setting aside that the government probably shouldn't be micromanaging minor aesthetic stylings like that, this isn't actually true. Toronto isn't the city of plexes and plentiful front doors that Montreal is, but it does have many neighborhoods, especially in older parts of the city, where 2 front doors are common due to a prevalence of semi-detached houses. It would be surprising to hear someone visit these neighborhoods in Old Toronto and genuinely think to themselves that semi-detached houses somehow harm the neighborhood mood.
In our experience, these semi-detached homes or duplexes with 2 front doors are the most you commonly see in Toronto, but we are aware of one residence in the city on Davenport Road west of Christie with a Montreal level of 4 front doors. If you're going to criticize this building's look, the garages in the bottom stand out much more than the doors do. But again, nothing here is that much more shocking than the normal housing variation you should expect to find in a city.
It's hard to argue that cities should never place rules on housing, but in general, people should be more aware of what's going on in other cities. If you want to ban or restrict something, you should have to look to places where that thing is not banned and seriously ask whether it's a problem there. If multiple front doors work fine in Montreal, and they even work fine on semi-detached houses in older parts of Toronto, they probably shouldn't be banned or restricted for basement suites in Toronto. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.